All right, guys, what is poppin'? I'm back with episode 10, chapter 2. And the story, once again, is I think I'm interviewing a killer. Now, I am very excited to get into this to the point I'm just scrolling through the story, I might make this pretty lengthy. She's used to that, but you guys aren't. That really didn't come out properly. She's used to that too, but anyways, just just disregard that. Never mind that. Yeah. So let's get started. So after that first section, I got out of there pretty quickly. The gate was open on my way out, so I drove without stopping. Getting out on the open road felt like taking a breath of fresh air after almost drowning. The expensive part of the neighborhood, with its empty street and tall fences, felt claustrophobic around me. So it was only when I nearly ran over a cyclist that I hit the brakes, hauling to a stop. The woman cursed at me, and I waved her an apology. Yeah, it really was successful. Still too spooked out to use my words. A car took me over, and I could see some more people on the sidewalks. And that made me feel better. Safer. I drove away slowly and carefully from there on, all the way back to the city. Yet it didn't feel like I was getting away from the old man. Was he driving behind me to find out where I live? My brain told me that was stupid, but I glanced in the rearview mirror just the same. No GMC van. No red Mondale. What if he'd bugged my car? Should have called 911, I thought. I even fished out my phone to dial the number, but stopped at the last moment. Contacting the authorities would be a serious step, something that had to be considered. I shook my head, took a deep breath, and put the phone away. I was out of there, and that was enough, at least for now. By the time I got home, I was fairly certain I just wound myself up about the whole thing. Creepy old men, disappearing nurses. It felt like I was making excuses to back out of the job. And again, I felt guilty and embarrassed for being so silly. In the comfort of my cozy, small apartment, I relaxed. I decided I wouldn't attempt to contact Mr. Taylor, nor would I call the cops. Best case scenario, it would all just go away, live and let live, and all that. Neither of us had done anything wrong, right? Least of all, me, right? I was able to maintain that positive mindset for the next few days as I allowed myself to relax and slack off for a bit. But you can only watch so much TV before your mind gets the best of you. I began analyzing my interview with Mr. Taylor. The way he looked, the way he moved, and most of all, what he said and how he said it. There was definitely something he was hiding, even if he had no real proof. And of course, there was that odd noise in his house. Disappearing nurses. I jumped on my laptop and typed. Not really sure where to start. Unlike TV amateur investigators, I had no friends in the police force, so I couldn't just phone a buddy for a quick background check. No shortcuts here. I googled John Taylor again, checking out the same few links I got the first time, now reading them instead of just scanning. A better look at the article that had given me his address revealed Mr. Taylor was a member of Tampa Palms Country Club. Since 2002, to be precise, the same year he won second place in the annual homeowners golf tournament. Only 2 points behind the winner. Tough luck. It was a bit of a leap to imagine that man swinging a club. But then, he'd be 65 at the time. And there was some very energetic 65-year-olds out there. The next article was about the car accident back in 91, just outside Buffalo, New York. A timeline was beginning to emerge, so I decided I should be taking notes. I grabbed the notebook. The article said I grabbed the notebook. The article said John Taylor, a widower, was driving from a business meeting to his house in Clarence when he fell asleep behind the wheel. His car, a newly bought Porsche 928, nice car, swerved onto the opposing lane, nearly causing a head-on collision with a flatbed truck. Awoken by its blasting horn, Mr. Taylor managed to miss the truck, his car spinning out and ending up in a ditch. Taylor was left unscratched, while the truck never even stopped. It was later found following Taylor's description. It was later found following Taylor's description, and the driver, George Sampson, 43 at the time, was fined $1,500 for fleeing the scene of the accident. I took down some notes, trying to make sense of them. Was there really anything more to this old man, or was I just wasting my time? I opened a new tab and brought up the freelancer site to check out if Mary or Mr. Taylor himself had sent me a message. There was nothing new in messages, beside a tiny note that said the used had been... What? Sorry. There was nothing new in messages, beside a tiny note that said the used had been active 9 hours ago. Not sure what that means. I stared at the dialogue for a moment, then closed it and returned to Google. Barbara, Colorado, 1952. A bunch of links immediately came up, but I managed only a brief glance as the phone began ringing on my bed. I walked over, glad, to my own surprise. For this distraction, I often get calls from unknown numbers. Nature of the job. And I rarely hesitate to answer. You never know when the job of a lifetime will come your way. But this time, I stopped dead. It was a local 813 number. The one I saw just a moment ago. Looking through my messages with Mary, I pressed the volume button to kill the vibration and just stared at the screen. The caller was patient, but after what seemed like hours, the ringing stopped, and the phone showed a missed call notification. I noticed my hand was shaking. Swallowing hard, I paced the room. Clearly, this was nowhere close to an end. I had signed on to it, too, which made me responsible. No matter how much I wanted to not be, I told myself there was a job to be done. And since it was presumably Mary's number, all was fine, right? I rehearsed the usual bullshit lines of dialogue, like, sorry, I was in the shower, and I was just about to call you. And while I was busy with that, Mary called again. I gave it a few seconds and answered. Oh, hi, Mary. How are you? There was a short pause, during which my heart's pace doubled. But then she said, Mr. Warner? Good to finally hear you. She had a pleasant voice and sounded as nice as a telemarketer, and I instantly felt at ease. Yes, good to finally hear you too. I'm sorry I couldn't meet you as we agreed. My son got sick, so I had to run. Oh, I'm sorry, I said, none the wiser. I hope he's okay now. She cleared her throat. He is. Thank you so much. Right. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Mr. Taylor asked me to call you. He said he'd be more than happy to see you again, to continue to work on the book. Before I could say a word, she asked, when would be a good time? I can come tomorrow, I blurted out without thinking. Same time? After a short pause, she said, Yes, that would be fine. We'll be waiting for you. The call cut off before I could say goodbye, once again leaving me staring at the screen. You idiot, this one is on you. I admit, I was excited. Now that I had had time to think about it, I felt more confident. Sitting alone in my room, I imagined myself boldly walking into that house and taking a proper interview with notes and rec. I grabbed my bag and spilled out its contents out on the bed. Wallet, some pens, some pieces of paper, car keys, various small junk, but no recorder. Nor was it anywhere else in the room or in the car, both of which I thoroughly inspected. The old man must have kicked me out so fast that I left it right there on his dinner table. This was getting better and better. Feeling knocked off my balance, I got behind the table to continue digging. My search for Barb had produced a short article from Denver's Daily Journal, dated October 7th, 1952. It said little more than what Mr. Taylor had shared, except one curious detail. A young woman by the name of Barbara Stanton, who was a nanny at a local family, had gone missing, last seen by the children she was babysitting. The kids Johnny, aged 14, and little Mike, aged 7, claimed they last saw Miss Stanton leaving for a walk with her boyfriend, name not mentioned. Although Mike thinks it might have been a girlfriend, the next note in the same paper dates to April 10th of the same year. Of 1953, my bad. And says that no body or any kind of evidence had been found. No mention of the boyfriend or anyone else at all. I scribbled down the names and added dates to the timeline. It was fascinating, trying to piece together a man's life going off of newspaper articles. There had to be more, I reasoned, but for the time being, I simply didn't know where to look. There were literally hundreds of Taylors online, and telling one from another would require a lot more time than patience, neither of which I had at the moment. Excuse me. I reasoned the best way to go about it would be to ask the man himself. And then, after I had something more to work with, I could narrow my search and double-check his history. Of course, as it often happens, my enthusiasm for the upcoming meeting had waned by the time I woke up the next morning. I forced myself to go through the same routine as the previous time, showering and dressing up, and got into my car. You can do this, I told myself. But there was no confidence in that voice. It didn't help that it was on the day that the sun decided to hide, turning the normally cheerful city into a bleak painting. Still, I drove off, and soon turned into the neighborhood, and went down its main lane all the way to Mr. Taylor's gate. I arrived right on time, and as before, the gate opened without me having to buzz in. I drove up the pavement to the house slowly, looking to see if anything had changed, and seeing nothing different. Even the two cars were parked in the same spots and at the same angle, leaving plenty of space for me. Having read enough Jack Reacher novels, this time I decided to take some measures and backed into the parking space so that if anything went wrong, I could jump in the car and drive right off. It sounds silly now, but at the time, I took it as a stroke of tactical genius. I'm not going to even lie. I understand why this is me talking, by the way. I understand why he would, somebody would think that would be, kind of odd or silly, but I can also understand his, point of view. He's doesn't seem to be very comfortable around this kind of guy. Not this kind of guy, but he doesn't know enough about this guy yet. So, again, I don't know. Up the steps, and once again, I heard 3 different locks open. Behind the door, John Taylor was greeting me, one hand around his IV stand, another reaching out to shake mine. It was just as cold and bony, and it made me shiver. I managed to maintain some of my calm and walked past him straight to the dinner table. A part of me hoping I would find my recorder there. No such luck. The old man didn't seem as creepy the second time around, but something about the house was still wrong. I'm not a superstitious guy, but that house gave off some ill vibes. I'm sorry you had to leave in a hurry last time, Mr. Warner. It wasn't very polite on my part. No worries. Surely it was something important, I said, trying to come off neutral. It was. Without waiting, I took out my notebook and pen and opened it on a new page. How about we try this again, huh? He nodded. I said, oh, and I think I may have forgotten my recorder here. Have you by any chance seen it, John? Sorry, guys. Oh, and I think I may have forgotten my recorder here. Have you by chance seen it, John? He looked up at me, no emotion in his eyes, one way or another. I don't think I have. No, perhaps Mary has discovered it. She'll be with us shortly. She's making sandwiches and coffee. I tried to be discreet as I listened, and there were indeed some sounds coming from the next room. The idea of having a third person during the interview suddenly gave me hope. Well, why don't we go over the things you told me last time to make sure I have it all down? Very good, Mr. Warner. Having it all down is our ultimate goal here anyway, isn't it? Yep. So Colorado, 1940s. I wrote it down. Denver, yes. Good times. I was just a small child at the time, Mr. Warner, so I don't recall much. And there wasn't much to tell, anyway. My father was a hunter, and my mother liked to cook. That passed when I was 7. A hunting accident. So mom married a rich guy named Sloan, a local businessman, as you would call him these days. My brother Mitchell was born in 1945. I made sure to write everything down, nodding for him to carry on. We were just kids, fooling around, wasting our time away. Not much else to tell there. He trailed off, and I was ready to declare this chapter boring as hell. But then Mary walked in, and that changed. Good afternoon, Mr. Warner, she said. I smiled mechanically. Glad to see another person. Mary was my age, maybe a year older, with short, dark hair, lively eyes. There was a wooden tray in her hands, and she carried it carefully. It was barely noticeable, but she was limping, so I got up to help her. Hi there. Please let me. Sorry, please, let me. Making my way around the table, I pointed at my lip. So I pointed at my lip while looking at hers. What happened here? I asked. She shot a quick glance at Taylor, then smiled thinly. Just cold sore. Excuse me. Nice meeting you in person. She was about to turn around and leave, but Taylor's voice stopped her in place. Mary, don't go just now. Mary turned to him, and he said, Tell me, have you seen Mr. Warner's tape recorder? It's a digital recorder, actually. I inserted, but they ignored my comment. Mary faced me. I don't believe I have. I'll make sure to keep an eye out for it. Very well, Taylor said. Now be a dear and fetch my blanket. I must have left it in the abor. Not sure what that is. I'm not rich. I don't know what these things are. Unless I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. Mary nodded and hurried to leave. Her leg clearly in pain. I sat down on the tray and passed Taylor his lunch. Is she all right? I asked. I couldn't tell I couldn't tell. Where was I? Oh, yes, the nanny. Caught off guard, I grabbed the notebook and got ready. Not much to tell about Barb. She disappeared and nobody ever found her, but there was something they did find. Excuse me. Oh, oh yes. This was in. He lingered as if he was trying to either remember or guess the right year. I want to say 53 after we left Denver, because the story happened in Topeka, Kansas, where my new or DA, I don't even know, had a business venture. Ma was worried it would be tough for us to switch schools, but Topeka welcomed welcomed us, and we made a lot of friends. We used to play at an abandoned shoe factory. The younger kids, Michael included, sorry, the younger kids, oh shoot, my bad, guys, actually. The younger kids, Michael included, thought that thought the boogeyman lived in there, hiding in the basement. Taylor laughed weakly, with some sorrow and anger. He said they dared each other to go in there at night. Hello. And whoever spent there longest was the new king. And one day a young boy, Michael's classmate, went in there and never returned. Shivers went down my back. Coming from Taylor, told in his old voice, this sounded like the scariest story I'd ever heard. I stopped. I stopped writing, trying to bring myself to eat and finding it difficult. Outside, mirroring the mood in the room. Excuse me. Outside, mirroring the mood in the room, the sky had become even darker. They found him. I said finally. 4 days later, and then what? They found him. I said finally. 4 days later, in the sewers beneath the factory, was he giving me a clue? What? Sorry, guys, confusing me. Outside, mirroring the mood in the room, the sky had become even darker. They found him, I said finally. Now, I'm not sure if that's like a mental thing. If that's him saying that mentally to himself, or what, because it's next part I don't count. 4 days later, in the sewers beneath the factory. Now, it just appeared. There's no exclamation and there's no question mark, so I really don't know how to interpret this. Was he giving me a clue, bragging, or were these just musings of a senile old man? So, sorry guys, I'm a little confused here because it said they found him, but this is coming from this guy that I'm reading in perspective from. So, not Mr. Taylor, but this freelance writer. Maybe, I don't know. I'm reading it wrong, maybe. Just trying to read over it here, and I'm not. I apologize. I was just trying to skim through it while I was just reading. I don't know. So far, the picture was as bleak as the day. Okay, I said, the rest of the appetite gone. Sorry, I said, okay, I said, the rest of my appetite gone. What happened then? We lived in Topeka for a few more years, until 55. I want to say that was a period of great personal growth for me. That's for damn sure good times. At that moment, the back door opened and closed, and Mary appeared in the doorway. I got your blanket, Mr. Taylor. Good, Maria. It's good to rain. It's going to rain any minute now. She limped away, and we were left alone again. It started raining. She's a good nurse, when she wants to be, Taylor said, looking after her. Then he looked down at our untouched lunch, and then up at me. I'm feeling tired, Mr. Warner. Do you think we could continue next week? I promise my stories will get more factual. You will tell me what you need to know. And I will tell, sorry, you will tell me what you need to know, and I will do my best to spare no detail. I clicked my pen and shut the notebook. I had enough new clues to follow anyway. That sounds like a deal to me, Mr. Taylor. I will give you a call beforehand. Good. I trust Mary will meet you at the house next time. Unsure of what that meant, I grabbed my bag and headed out. I had tried very hard all afternoon to keep collected and couldn't wait to get to my car and relax. Covering my head, I made my way to the car in 5 big leaps. Excuse me, guys. I'm a bit tired. in 5 big leaps and got behind the wheel. The rain was drumming on the roof, and the windshield was a blur. I fired up the engine, and it was then that I noticed something white under the wipers. It was a parking ticket. But then the rain sensors activated, and the wipers began doing their job. By the time I stepped out and grabbed the piece of paper, all I could see on it was Mr. Warner. He and the rest was papery mush with streaks of ink in it. I'm just reading the comments here to maybe clarify anything that I'm a little unsure of. I'm just looking at this Danny Warner's thing here, his wall or whatever. So there is, I believe, part 3. Is there part 4 to this? Yes, I have. I'm just trying to see how many parts I have left to read. So I have part 3, part 4, part 5. Just so you guys kind of, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So I am very, very, very excited to read part 3, or in my case, chapter 3. So that is going to be it for this episode. For this chapter. I am actually going to read chapter 3 or part 3 right after this. Like I just did that. I read this chapter right after I did chapter 1. I just can't get enough of this story. It's like, it's incredible. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Read Ep.10 I. And until next time, thanks for listening. Have a great day.